claiming the defendant, Mr. Levon, is denying your 6-month-old daughter. He's desperate to try to keep your affair with him a secret. You and your girlfriend say you know you are not the biological father.
They say what happens in one night can change your life forever. For Miss Allen, that one night left her with a baby and a broken heart. She came to paternity court holding her 6-month-old daughter, Layla, and demanding one thing: for Mr. Lavon, the man she says fathered her child, to face the truth. Her story began not with love, but with secrets. She claimed that Lavon was denying their daughter, not because he doubted her, but because he wanted to protect another secret: his long-term relationship. Miss Allen said, "He's denying our child because of his girlfriend. He doesn't want to break up his happy home, but my daughter deserves her father." According to her, Lavon's girlfriend had been whispering in his ear, telling him that the baby was too light-skinned, that the timing didn't make sense, that the story didn't add up. But Miss Allen insisted that everything about her story was true, from the dates to the details, and that the only thing standing in the way was Lavon's pride. When asked why she was so determined to prove paternity, Miss Allen's answer was simple: "I grew up without a father. I know how that feels. I just want my daughter to have her daddy." Her voice cracked, but her resolve was strong. This wasn't just about proving DNA. It was about dignity. Mr. Lavon, sitting across the courtroom with his girlfriend, didn't see it that way. He said the relationship with Miss Allen was nothing more than a one-night mistake that happened years ago, when he and his girlfriend were briefly separated. He claimed it was never a real relationship, just a single night that spiraled into chaos. "I was going through something," he said. "We split up for one night, that's all it was." But Miss Allen disagreed completely. "It wasn't a one-night stand," she argued. "We'd been talking for years. He told me he loved me. We were in a long-distance relationship before I ever came to Atlanta to see him." According to Miss Allen, they had first met in 2010 and stayed in contact for years through social media, calls, and video chats. When she finally visited Atlanta in 2015, they reconnected in person, and that, she claimed, was when her daughter was conceived. She even brought a calendar to court, showing the exact date she says they were intimate: December 27th, 2015, and her baby's due date of September 26th matched the timeline perfectly. But Mr. Lavon called her entire story a lie. "The dates don't add up," he said. "She texted me that she was pregnant on January 6th. That's too early. She was already pregnant before that night." He also accused Miss Allen of being with another man, a man named Mr. Mitchell, during the same period. The courtroom grew tense. Was this really just a misunderstanding, or was someone lying? Miss Allen finally admitted that she had been with another man, but insisted that encounter didn't result in pregnancy. "Yes, Your Honor," she said. "I was with Mr. Mitchell, but we didn't finish. We didn't have full intercourse. Me and Lavon did. That's how I know he's the father." Lavon and his girlfriend exchanged looks, disbelief mixed with anger. To them, it sounded like desperation. Then came the messages. Miss Allen produced what she called proof, screenshots of texts between her and Lavon. One of them read, "Happy Valentine's Day, Leela. Daddy loves you." Another message from Lavon said, "What's she doing?" Miss Allen had replied, "Looking around." And Lavon supposedly answered, "She looking for me." It was simple, tender, and to Miss Allen, it was undeniable evidence that he once acknowledged being the father. But Lavon didn't even flinch. He said, "Those texts are fake. That's not me. I didn't write that. His girlfriend backed him up, saying Miss Allen had fabricated everything to destroy their family. The tension in the courtroom turned icy. Miss Allen's eyes filled with tears as she said, "How can I fake a whole conversation with pictures of my baby? I just want him to be a father." But the girlfriend wasn't moved. "She's been obsessed since day one," she said. "She's been trying to break us up for years. She even commented on my Facebook posts. She's stalking us." Miss Allen snapped back. "Your man called me. He's the one who kept reaching out. I didn't go after him, he came back to me." The argument spiraled, the emotions raw. Love, betrayal, guilt, all tangled together under the bright courtroom lights. When the judge asked why Miss Allen was so certain Lavon was the father, her answer cut through the noise. "Because I feel it in my heart," she said softly. "When I look at my daughter, I see him. The same nose, the same eyes. You can't tell me that's not his baby." Lavon looked down at the floor. He didn't respond. Then the court called in the other man, Mr. Mitchell, the one Miss Allen admitted to being intimate with during the same time frame. He walked in calmly, stood before the judge and said clearly, "Yes, I had a sexual relationship with her, but she never told me that baby was mine." When asked if he believed he was the father, his answer was simple. "No, ma'am, I don't believe I am." The courtroom went silent again. Miss Allen looked heartbroken. She had come to court to find truth, but every truth revealed was cutting her deeper. Mr. Lavon's girlfriend shook her head and muttered, "Told you." The judge raised her hand for silence and spoke firmly. "This isn't about who can shout louder. This is about a child, a 6-month-old baby who deserves to know who her father is." Then she looked at Lavon. "You admit you slept with Miss Allen. You admit you were separated from your girlfriend at the time. You say you love your family, but loving your family also means facing the truth." Lavon nodded slowly, but didn't say a word. Finally, it was time. The courtroom fell quiet as the judge opened the envelope. In the case of Allen versus Lavon and Mitchell, when it comes to 6-month-old Leila Allen, it has been determined by this court. Everyone held their breath. "Mr. Mitchell, you are not the father." Miss Allen exhaled with relief. But then the judge continued, "And Mr. Lavon, you are not the father either." The air seemed to leave the room. Miss Allen's face went pale. For a moment, she couldn't even speak. Her eyes welled with tears as the judge said gently, "I know this isn't the answer you wanted, but this is the truth." Lavon's girlfriend sighed with relief, whispering, "Thank you, God." Miss Allen just shook her head, whispering to herself, "He's the only man I was with." But the DNA said otherwise. The judge leaned forward, her voice firm but kind. "Miss Allen, you have to stop. If you keep up this behavior, blaming, chasing, fighting, you'll end up right back here again. You're a young woman, a mother now. You have to think about your daughter's future." Tears rolled down Miss Allen's face. She nodded, but it was clear she was shattered. The judge continued, "You can't build a life on denial. You're valuable, and so is that little girl. But you must be careful who you trust and who you let into your life." Miss Allen whispered, "I just wanted my baby to have her dad." As the courtroom emptied, Lavon's girlfriend held his hand, smiling faintly. Miss Allen stood alone, holding her baby. In her eyes there was heartbreak, but also something else. A quiet, painful strength. Because even when the DNA ends the story, a mother's love doesn't stop. And for Miss Allen, this was just the beginning of raising her daughter on her own, the truth heavy on her heart, but her resolve even heavier. Sometimes love begins with laughter and ends with accusation. That's what happened to Miss Walton, a young woman who came to paternity court holding her 3-year-old daughter, Nia, and demanding the truth from Mr. DeVere, the man she once called her best friend. She said they'd started as friends, nothing more. But friendship turned into something deeper, something that led to a child. Now, 3 years later, that same man was sitting across from her, saying he wanted nothing to do with her or the little girl he once claimed as his own. Miss Walton's eyes filled with frustration as she spoke. He was there in the beginning. He came to the hospital. He cut the umbilical cord. He signed the birth certificate. Then one day he just walked away. When asked why, she said the rumors started. People in his family were saying the baby doesn't look like him. They said I was sleeping with other people, and he believed them. Her voice cracked as she looked across the room. You let them talk you out of being a father. Mr. DeVere sat calmly, his tone colder than his stare. She's not telling the full story, he said. Yeah, I signed the birth certificate, but later I found out she was cheating on me the whole time. I don't know whose baby that is. He said that during their relationship, Miss Walton would disappear for days, ignoring calls and texts, and always had an excuse when she came back. When she told me she was pregnant, he said, I didn't even question it at first. But then one of her exes told me he might be the father too. That's when I started to wonder. Miss Walton shook her head, angry and heartbroken. He's lying. I was never with anyone else during that time. Never. But Mr. DeVere stayed calm. He said, if you weren't, then why did you post pictures with another guy while you were pregnant? You were tagging him, calling him boo. That's not how a loyal woman acts. Miss Walton's mother, sitting beside her, finally spoke up. She said that man she posted was her cousin. This boy don't know what he's talking about. The courtroom chuckled softly, but Mr. DeVere didn't laugh. He said, if that's her cousin, then they're the most affectionate cousins I've ever seen. The judge raised an eyebrow. Mr. DeVere, are you saying those pictures made you question paternity? Yes, Your Honor, he said firmly. After I saw those posts, I stopped trusting her. Then when the baby was born, she didn't look like me, light skin, curly hair. Everyone in my family said, man, that's not your kid. Miss Walton rolled her eyes. She doesn't have to look exactly like you to be yours. She has my mother's complexion. You can't pick and choose DNA. Then the judge asked him, but if you were so unsure, why did you sign the birth certificate? He sighed. Because I loved her, because I believed her. But after a few months, everything changed. She stopped answering my calls, wouldn't let me see the baby, and started asking for money out of nowhere. Miss Walton fired back. That's a lie. You saw her whenever you wanted. I asked for help, diapers, milk, basic stuff a father should buy. He told me, ask whoever the real daddy is. The courtroom gasped. Her mother looked at Mr. DeVere and said, that's cruel. You knew that baby looked up to you. You can't just disappear because you're insecure. But he didn't back down. I didn't disappear. I walked away when I realized I'd been played. I heard she was with another guy while she was pregnant. What kind of man would stick around after that? Miss Walton covered her face in frustration. I was not with another man. I was on bed rest half the pregnancy. You knew that. He shook his head. All I know is she was lying, and I'm not raising another man's baby again. The judge raised a hand to silence the shouting. Hold on, Mr. DeVere, you said again. What do you mean by that? He looked down. I've been through this before, he said quietly. When I was younger, I took care of a baby for 2 years. Turned out she wasn't mine. That broke me. So yeah, I have trust issues. I won't get attached again unless I'm sure. The room grew silent. Even Miss Walton softened a little, whispering, I didn't know that. He nodded. Now you do. The judge looked between them and said gently, this case isn't just about biology, it's about pain. Both of you are hurt, both of you are scared. But there's a child at the center who didn't ask for any of this. So let's focus on her. Miss Walton nodded, wiping her tears. She deserves the truth, that's all I want. Mr. DeVere agreed quietly, so do I. When asked if he'd ever provided for the child, Mr. DeVere said yes, in the beginning. I bought diapers, formula, clothes. I even paid for her first doctor visit. But when I started hearing rumors, I pulled back. I wasn't gonna keep paying for something that might not be mine. Miss Walton frowned. You didn't pay for her. My mama did. You sent $100 once, that's it. He laughed bitterly. Your mama told me not to come around. She said, we don't need you, so I stayed away. Her mother snapped, because you were disrespectful. You called my daughter a liar in my house. The judge shook her head. This baby didn't ask for any of this drama. I'm going to give both of you what you came here for, the truth. She unfolded the DNA results and began reading. In the case of Walton versus DeVere, when it comes to 3-year-old Nia Walton, the courtroom went silent. Miss Walton closed her eyes. Mr. DeVere clenched his jaw. It has been determined by this court that Mr. DeVere, you are the father. For a second, nobody moved. Then Miss Walton burst into tears, part relief, part pain. She turned to him and whispered, I told you. Mr. DeVere sat still, his face unreadable. After a long pause, he nodded slowly and said, all right. The judge said gently, all right, that's all you have to say. He sighed. I'm glad I know, I'll step up now. I just wish it hadn't come to this. Miss Walton's mother smiled through tears. That little girl's been calling you daddy since she could talk, she said softly. Don't make her regret it. He nodded again, quieter this time. I won't, I promise. Miss Walton looked at him, wiping her eyes. You hurt me, but thank you for being honest. I just want her to have you in her life. After the hearing, both families gave updates. Miss Walton wrote, we're working on co-parenting now. It's not perfect, but he's trying. He calls every day and takes her on weekends. I didn't want to fight, I just wanted my daughter to have her dad. Mr. DeVere wrote, the results shocked me, I was wrong. I let my fears control me. Now I'm focused on being a father. I can't change the past, but I can show up now. The narrator's closing words echoed over gentle piano. Sometimes one test can do more than reveal truth. It can restore faith. Because being a father isn't about being right. It's about being there. But the marathon wasn't over yet. Because next, a man who swore he'd left the past behind finds his old mistake waiting at the door. With a baby that might just be his. They say time heals all wounds. But some wounds don't fade. They just wait for the truth to finally be spoken. For Mr. Reggie Brown, that truth showed up on his doorstep in the form of a woman from his past, holding a child he never knew existed. Her name was Monique, and the moment he saw her face again, the memories came flooding back, the laughter, the mistakes, and the night that changed everything. She said, Reggie, this is your son. And just like that, the past he'd buried came roaring back to life. Monique and Reggie hadn't seen each other in almost 4 years. Back then, they'd been wild, young, reckless, and caught up in a relationship that burned fast and ended badly. He'd left the city without a word. She'd moved on, and that was supposed to be the end of it. But 2 years later, she tracked him down, saying she had something he needed to see. A little boy barely walking with the same dimples, the same brown eyes, and the same mischievous grin Reggie saw in the mirror every day. He thought it was a coincidence. He told himself it couldn't be true. But now, sitting in paternity court, the truth could no longer hide behind time. Monique said softly, "He's yours, I don't care what anyone says." Reggie shook his head. "I don't believe it. When I left, she was already talking to someone else. She even told me she was pregnant after I blocked her number. That timing don't make sense." But Monique had receipts, literal ones. She showed the court messages she'd saved from years ago, where she told him she'd missed her period and was scared. In one message, Reggie had responded, "Don't start that with me, Monique. You playing games." She said, "I wasn't playing. I was trying to tell him the truth and he ran." Reggie sighed. "Your Honor, we were toxic. Always arguing, breaking up, making up. I didn't think nothing she said was serious. She told me she was pregnant 3 times before that and it was never true." Monique's voice cracked. This time it was. The courtroom was quiet. You could feel the years of anger, guilt, and regret sitting between them like a ghost. The judge asked, "Mr. Brown, when you saw that child for the first time, what did you feel?" Reggie hesitated, his tough facade cracking. He said quietly, "I felt something, but I didn't want to, because if he's mine, then that means I missed everything, his first steps, his first words, everything." Monique whispered, "You did." She continued, "I never wanted to raise him alone. I gave you every chance, but you chose to disappear. You moved to another city, blocked me on everything, and told your friends I was lying." Reggie looked away. "I didn't know what to believe. You had a new man in your pictures a month later." "That man came into my life after you left," she snapped. "I waited for you. I begged you to call me. I sent you pictures of the ultrasound. You ignored all of it." Reggie rubbed his face, exhausted. "I didn't want to believe it, Monique, because if it was true, I couldn't forgive myself." The judge leaned forward. "Why?" He looked up, eyes glistening. "Because my dad left me too, and I swore I'd never do that to my kid, and if this boy's mine, I already did." The courtroom went still. Even Monique couldn't hold back her tears. The judge nodded slowly. "That's the power of truth. It doesn't just reveal DNA. It reveals who we really are." When asked about the child's reaction, Monique said softly, "He's 4 now, and he's starting to ask questions. He asks why all the other kids have dads at school and he doesn't. I told him his daddy's name, and you know what he said." Reggie looked up, hesitant. She whispered, "He said, 'When I get big, I'm gonna go find him myself.'" Her words broke him. Reggie wiped his eyes and whispered, "I didn't know." Monique said, "You didn't want to know." The judge handed her the envelope. "This paper will tell you what your heart's been arguing about for 4 years." Monique nodded, clutching it tightly. But before she opened it, Reggie spoke. "Before you read that, if he's mine, I'll make it right. I'll be there. Every day, every holiday, whatever it takes. But if he's not, I'll still wish him the best. Because that little boy didn't ask for any of this." Monique whispered, "That's all I ever wanted to hear." The judge opened the envelope. Her voice was calm, deliberate. "In the case of Monique versus Brown, when it comes to 4-year-old Jalen Carter, It has been determined by this court. The room went completely silent. Mr. Reggie Brown, you are the father. Reggie froze. He blinked as if the words hadn't sunk in yet. Then slowly, he covered his face with both hands and broke down. Monique sobbed too, but not from anger, from relief. Years of doubt, shame, and loneliness melted away in that single moment. The judge's voice softened. Mr. Brown, I hope this moment changes everything, not just for your son, but for you. Because you can't change the past, but you can rewrite the future. He nodded through tears. I'm gonna be the father I never had, he said quietly. I can't believe I let this go for so long. Monique looked at him and whispered, I forgive you. Later, paternity court received an update from both of them. Monique wrote, Reggie visits Jalen every weekend now. He takes him to the park, helps with homework, even taught him how to ride his bike. Watching them together makes every tear I cried worth it. Reggie wrote, When I held my son for the first time, I felt something I'd never felt before, peace. For years, I was running from my mistakes. Now I'm running towards something that matters. I missed his first years, but I won't miss another moment. And finally, in the closing narration, the voice carried soft over piano music. The truth doesn't erase the past. It gives it meaning. Because sometimes the people who run the farthest are the ones who want to come home the most. For every parent afraid of facing their mistakes, remember this: it's never too late to do right by love.